talking about Fruitvale Station, you're the writer, you're the director. What makes the case so interesting to you then?
Well, it was important to me personally, due to me sharing a lot of common ground with the victim. You know, Oscar was 22. He was from the Bay Area. Had been there his whole life. I was 22 at the time. He was from the Bay Area. Pretty much been there my whole life. And just when I initially watched the footage, you know, I couldn't help but to personalize it almost immediately. You know what I mean? Like just seeing him, you know, on that grainy footage, it almost looked like it was happening to myself. I didn't know him. We were separated by like 1 degree of separation. I found out once I started to research the case. You know, I knew a lot of people that knew him, but we had never met each other. But you know, it was still like a pretty shocking feeling seeing that happen. You know, and I think that as human beings, we tend to relate to people who have a lot of things in common with us. You know what I'm saying? It's just a part of the, you know, part of how we work. I think. You know, that's why I think a lot of people could see the footage and you know, be kind of shocked by it, but still kind of move on. You know.
Yeah, speaking of the footage then, the footage on mobile phones that sort of made its way onto YouTube, you include a clip of that at the beginning of the film. I don't know if that was always the plan, but how important was it in terms of the case, in terms of the trial and everything, was this footage?
Oh, it was incredibly important. I mean, it was in many ways what made the case, you know, what it was. You know, whenever there's an incident, you know, if there's no video footage, it's generally, you know, one person's word against another person. And in this case, the most important witness was dead. You know, he was killed in the incident. And you know, obviously there were other witnesses there, but by them, you know, recording footage, you know, it made everybody witness, and it kind of, you know, created evidence of what happened to this young man. You know.
Yeah, so in terms of that sort of, you filmed things at the station where it actually took place, the exact same place, you're using the areas it all took place in, and so it felt a very authentic film. But did you ever consider making it like a documentary about the subject, or why did you decide to go with like a screenplay type approach?
I didn't think about making a documentary for the main reason that what I really wanted to do with the film was to bring audiences to a close proximity with Oscar, and Oscar's no longer here. You know, it's not like we can interview him or put him on camera or let him speak for himself. So a documentary would be void of Oscar, but through the magic of fiction, you know what I mean, you can kind of bring somebody back, you know, and have an actor representing their essence, you know, and have somebody who looks like them, dressed like them, acting like them, and the experience can kind of blur the lines a bit, kind of put the audience right there in the front seat, you know, with the character, you know. So I tend to respond to films, you know, that work like that a little more. At times. Yeah,
I definitely felt like it did put you right in there. It's a very kind of handheld approach to filmmaking. You feel like you're sitting with them at the hospital. You're on that train with them.
Right.
And how much of what goes on in Oscar's last 24 hours is fact? How much of that happened on that day? How much is things he maybe did before that? And how much is sort of created by yourself?
Right. I mean, the majority of it is what happened on that very day. You know, we were fortunate enough that Oscar was with other people pretty much the whole day, and when he wasn't, he kind of told them what happened. There's a scene in the middle of the film that's fictionalized when Oscar's by himself, and for a few reasons chose to do that. And there's a character that was a combination of two separate characters. You know, yeah. So I mean, besides those two things, you know, it was all you know, legitimate to what we researched.
So the scene you talk about where he's on his own, is that the scene with the dog? Yeah, because I personally absolutely love that scene. I mean, I'm a dog lover, so I connected to that scene in a personal level. I've seen some people criticise that and say, sort of, is it painting him in a good light as an animal lover? But it's obviously, it's foreshadowing, it's a metaphor for himself, basically. So why was that scene with the pit bull important to you?
Oh, it was extremely important to me. It actually happened to my little brother while I was writing the film, and talking to people about Oscar. He was somebody who kept his emotions inside and kind of put up a front all the time around the people who were around him. And when he picked Sofina up from work that day, she said that something was off about him. You know, that something in that front was kind of damaged. She could tell something was up. And I thought about like what might have happened to him on that day. What might he have seen? You know what I mean, or experienced that could have him down like that. You know, of course I found out about his job and things of this different nature. But I thought it'd be a time for that we could use some dramatic license. You know, I was thinking about that, and one day my little brother came home, you know, quite bummed out. and he told me that he went to a gas station and he saw a dog get hit by a car. He thought the dog was gonna make it. You know what I'm saying? So he put him out of the street, and the dog ended up dying right there. And then what really upsetting was that he just had to leave it in the street. You know what I mean? He didn't really know what to do with it. And as soon as he told me that story, I thought about Oscar, so I put it in. I mean, I think it's good to have things that people are divisive about.
Definitely.
You know what I mean? At times, I mean, some people like the scene, some people hate the scene. You know what I mean? But Mike and I really both liked the scene a lot. You know, I was Mike's favorite scene. Yeah. So that's how I knew it was a good thing for it to stay.
Yeah. Speaking about Michael B. Jordan, then he's obviously an incredibly likable kind of character, as himself. He's been in lots of stuff now. We know him. Right. Were you conscious of making Oscar sort of divisive, not too nice, not too horrible again? Because he's quite threatening at times, but then he does seem like quite a nice guy a lot of the time. That was intentional? I take it.
Yeah. Like that was kind of the thing. That was the kind of thing about him, was that I talked to his best friend, and the thing he said about Oscar was, to sum him up, was like, Oscar was somebody, either you loved him or you hated him. You know what I mean? And he said most people loved him. You know what I mean? There's some people who hated him. You know, and there's a character in the film that's like that. Who every time you see he sees Oscar, you know that they have like some history. You know what I mean? But on this day, Oscar was around people who he meant the world to, and he was known for being like extremely charismatic. You know what I mean? And he was somebody who, when people talked about him when he was working at Farmer Joe's, the grocery store, he would be hitting, flirting with girls all the time, and he would talk to people that he didn't know. And that was just a part of his personality, a part of who he was. So he really, wanted to capture that. But she talks about him being a bit of a, a little bit of a flirt. You know what I mean? And you see a little bit of that relationship dynamics there. And they were young. You know what I mean? He was 22 years old when that happened to him. I mean, I think the biggest thing about him that we tried to capture in the film was that his relationship with this girl and his relationship with his daughter really mattered to him. You know what I mean? It meant the world to him.
The scenes, yeah, with him and Tatiana, his daughter, are just incredible. They're really sweet, and they were funny at times as well. People in the audience were laughing. Obviously, we didn't come away from the film laughing, but there's good moments in there to laugh at. Just speaking a bit about Michael B. Jordan, you're teaming up with him again for your next project. Is that right? You're working on Creed. Can you tell us anything about that?
Yeah, we're writing it right now. You know what I mean? Hopefully we'll be moving forward with it. We're waiting on some news, regarding that soon. But I mean, I'm excited about it. Like, we were excited about the script. I'm writing it with a buddy of mine named Aaron Covington, and we just turned in the latest draft. So we'll be hearing back from the studio soon, hearing back from the producers soon. But it's a story that's like extremely personal to me. You know what I mean? It was a story that I pitched to the studios. And pitched to Stallone. Not really expecting for them to be interested in it, to be honest with you. But they ended up being interested in it. So if it goes, man, I'm really excited about it. And like making it might bring us back to the UK as well.
Brilliant. Now, I mean, I can't wait for that. But why is that a personal story to you? Is it through your father? Is it, who was a big Rocky fan? Because I understand when you were little, you weren't necessarily always going to be a filmmaker. You kind of got football scholarships. Yeah. So, what does Rocky mean to you, or why is it so important to you through your father?
Well, I think the reason that my dad liked it. My dad, his story was kind of an underdog story. You know what I mean? In his personal life, and I think he really related to it. And I found out later that my grandmother, who I never met, that she was sick most of his life, and at the time when she was the worst, they would sit in bed and watch Rocky together. You know what I mean? It would come on TV quite a bit. So whenever he would watch the movie, he would cry all the time, and like, it would be at parts where people wouldn't normally, like, cry. Yeah. But I found out that about him later. You know what I mean? So and my dad and I went through a personal situation not too long before we started to shoot Fruitvale, where I kind of came up with this idea to vent a little bit, and I kind of liked the idea. I would think about it, and I said, hey, maybe it's something to this, and that's how the project came about.
Yeah, just speaking about Michael B. Jordan, he's been cast in the Fantastic Four next. This caused quite a lot of controversy. They've changed the race of Johnny Storm. Do you have any opinion on that, of like what he's going to bring to a superhero film, and whether you think he'd be good in that position? Yeah,
I mean, I think Mike's a terrific actor, and I think that I think the thing about literary characters, specifically comic books, is they kind of change the times as they go. There's a history of that happening there, and it's a fictional, a fictional character, and the thing about Johnny Storm was that his ethnicity never really was a part of his story, So I thought that it's an interesting thing. I actually know Josh Trank. really well. And I mean, I think he's a brilliant, brilliant filmmaker, man. I think he's going to really bring something special to that franchise. So I think that all fans of the comic book series should be excited because it's in good hands. And Mike's a terrific actor.
Do you see yourself making a superhero one day down the line? Is that something you might consider?
I'm a big comic book fan, so it's not a stretch at all, but I mean, we'll see how it goes.